Hello there friends, it's Ashley here from the Loopy Lamb and the loopylamb.com on behalf of Clover USA to show you how to use the Clover Mini Weaving Loom to do the Tabby Weave Stitch. Now the Tabby Weave Stitch is a beginner stitch on a loom and it can create really fun things. Now even though it's a beginner stitch, you can do things like create different shapes, have color changes. So once you get the basic technique down, you can experiment with shaping and creating fun things like this sunrise wall hanging that I created for Clover. And after you're done this, if you'd like, you can check out the pattern for how to make this over on the Clover USA blog. To follow along with today's tutorial, you'll need to have your Clover mini loom set up with how many warps that you'd like. I have the full 27 warps set up, and I have my shed stick already set up in the loom. You'll need your comb, and you'll also need your shuttle wound up with whatever yarn that you'd like to do this with. I'm using a worsted weight cotton yarn in a teal color to illustrate how to do the stitch today. So the Tabby Weave Stitch is very simple, and it is a 2-row repeat, if you'd like to put it in those kind of terms. To begin, you would work over the first warp, under the second, over the next, and under the next one. And you're just going to alternate working over and under each warp across the loom. You're going to pull that all the way through and make sure that you leave a tail on the side that you're starting on, so that way you can weave it in and your weaving doesn't unravel on you. So once you have your yarn in the loom, you're going to take your weaving comb and just use it to brush that yarn down. Okay, so once that's all straight, we're going to put our shed stick up like this, and then we're just going to pass the shuttle from left to right and pull that yarn through. Now, when you are doing this, take care of how tightly you are pulling this yarn on the end. If it is too tight, your work will start to bow inwards. So a good way to make sure that that doesn't happen is, if you've seen how I've kind of worked my yarn up in a curve here, and my yarn on the end, it's probably difficult to see, but it is just touching that last warp. Okay, now that curve will help to make sure that if I did potentially pull this a little tightly, that extra yarn that's in the curve will kind of even things out for me. So what I'm going to do is, now that I'm done, I've put my shed stick down, I'm going to use my weaving comb and push the yarn down to the bottom. Okay, and that's row 2. And that's how you would continue if you're doing the tabby stitch for, say, the whole project, or until you reach your desired size for this color, is you would go over, under, and you would just work that pattern across your loom. Now this is a repeat of what we did for row 1, and then when you do your return pass or your row 2, then you would be working under the warps that you worked over in the first row, and you would work over the warps you worked under in the first row. So we've finished weaving that through, and we're just going to use my weaving comb to pull that down to the bottom here. Push that warp stick up. Shed stick. And then we're going to pass the yarn back through. And that's it. That's how you do the tabby weave. And like I said, this is how it looks if you do it for a whole piece. Now, up at the top here, I've done no shaping whatsoever, so it's just back and forth in the Tabby Weave Stitch. But to create things like the shaping for these hills, is I started decreasing how many warp strings that I was working as I worked up, and that created that shape. And then for my son, I started in the middle, and then I was increasing how many warps I worked on each side to increase and create that shape. So just experimenting with how many warps that you're working or not working can get you some really cool results in your weaving. So thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. We'd love to hear from you, and we're happy to help. And if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and consider subscribing to this channel. Thanks so much for watching, friends. Happy crafting, and I'll see you next time.